Well, hello, Nick. Welcome to Streaming Star Wars. Nick, how you doing, my friend?
I am fantastic. It is Friday night, and I just poured some whiskey into my glass, and I'm ready to do our favorite thing, which is hang out, talk Star Wars, have a drink, and tonight we've got an exciting guest, which makes it even more fun.
Yeah, I mean, as we get, literally days away, we're no longer weeks away from Star Wars Celebration or months or years at one point. We're literally days, almost hours away from going to Star Wars Celebration. And so today we are excited. We'll, after we hit the news, we're going to have a conversation with somebody from Bandai Namco, who is going to have an amazing booth, and we're going to have some stuff to give away to our wonderful listeners. So we're excited to bring him in a little bit. But Nick, before we hit the news, how you doing? What's on your mind? What's hot in Star Wars in your head? When you think Star Wars this week, what are you thinking?
Well, we're going to get into it in a little bit, but certainly that Vanity Fair article has lived rent-free in my head most of the week. But it's also really hard not to have Celebration dominating my life right now. I texted you earlier that the suitcase is out, the backpack is out, like the logistics of getting things ready. I fly out Tuesday evening after work. So at this point, I'm like 4 days away from getting on a plane and heading to California. So I'm in that. It doesn't seem real, but it's right there around the corner. And until I'm standing in front of my friends and in this moment that I've been waiting for so long, it's that frenetic energy that I can't quite get a handle on.
Yeah, and it was so funny because like we've literally had years to prepare for this, literally, because the 2020 was canceled. It was canceled again last year, and now it's back this year. And I'm not ready at all. Like, I'm not mentally prepared. I'm not physically prepared. I mean, the only thing that I'm ready with is all the swag that we're going to give away when we're walking around. But otherwise, I think we're good. But so, Nick, we're going to switch things up this week. We're going to have the news read by you this week. So if you're ready to go, man, I'm gonna kick you right in.
I'm going to give it my best shot.
Awesome, man. Here's the news.
Star Wars pushes the Sabacc chips all in on Disney Plus, an update on the Rian Johnson trilogy, and a change in Star Wars publishing banner. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the galaxy. Another week, another flood of news, rumors, clickbait, and conversations. I am Nick Milkey, and welcome to Disturbances in the Force. All of the links to the original sources can be found in the notes, and I encourage you to check them out. The June 2022 edition of Vanity Fair released this week, featuring a Star Wars cover story titled Star Wars: The Rebellion Will Be Televised, written by Anthony Breznican and featuring pictures from legendary photographer Annie Leibovitz. The article covers the evolution of the Star Wars galaxy under Disney's ownership, away from a film-centric model to leaning heavily on streaming through its Disney Plus platform. The article states, with 130 million subscribers waiting, Disney has upped its demand to 3 separate Star Wars shows within a year. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy is quoted in the article as saying, "What's unique about Star Wars is that we're one story, basically. George was always dealing with episodes. Ironically, he was serializing his storytelling. He was influenced by Flash Gordon and cliffhangers on Saturdays at movie theaters. All of that informed what the DNA of Star Wars is, which is why I think it's just organic that we made the transition into television." New details about the Andor series also dropped this week in Vanity Fair, including this comment from director Tony Gilroy regarding main character Cassian Andor. Quote, "This guy gave his life for the galaxy, right? I mean, he consciously, soberly, without vanity or recognition, sacrificed himself. Who does that?" He asks. Gilroy continues saying, "That's what this first season is about. It's about him being really revolution averse and cynical and lost and kind of a mess." The article states that the show will also focus on rebel leader Mon Mothma, played once again by Genevieve O'Reilly. In Andor, her story will run parallel to the title character, whom we know will eventually become one of her key agents. "It is a huge orchestral Dickensian ensemble cast," says Gilroy. Andor is expected to drop on Disney Plus in late summer 2022. Details about the Acolyte series that is being helmed by Leslie Headland indicates that the show takes place roughly 100 years before The Phantom Menace. And according to Headland, a lot of those characters haven't even been born yet. We're taking a look at the political and personal and spiritual things that came up in a time period that we don't know much about. My question, Headland continued, when watching The Phantom Menace was always like, how did things get to this point? How did we get to a point where a Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? Like, what went wrong? What are the scenarios that led us to this moment? End quote. There is no official release date yet for The Acolyte. In other news on Star Wars Horizon, one other show that doesn't have a title yet, just a code name, Grammar Rodeo, which is a reference to an episode of The Simpsons. The show takes place during the post-Return of the Jedi reconstruction period following the fall of the Empire, the same as The Mandalorian, but the plot remains a secret. The series is being created and executive produced by director John Watts and writer Chris Ford, who made Spider-Man Homecoming for Marvel. A casting notice has called for 4 children around 11 to 12 years old. Inside Lucasfilm, the show is being described as a galactic version of a classic Amblin coming-of-age adventure film like in the 80s. No official release details are available for this show at this time. A, quote, roadmap is in place, says Lucasfilm's Kathy Kennedy, regarding future Star Wars movies, and while Lucasfilm's big screen return is unlikely to follow the same relentless pace as before, the movie that is most likely to premiere next is the yet-to-be-named Taika Waititi project, and will most likely be followed by Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron. The rumored Kevin Feige movie project seems to be moving forward with recent Twitter posts from Multiverse of Madness scribe Michael Waldron confirming his involvement, despite comments from Kennedy in the Vanity Fair article. Also not completely off the table is the Rian Johnson movie trilogy, which was classified by Kennedy as on the back burner. Kennedy's further statements regarding upcoming Star Wars films states that the emphasis on television is already influencing the upcoming films. Quote, I hesitate to use the word trilogies anymore because Star Wars is much more about persistent storytelling, Kennedy said. In book news this week, Random House announced the launch of Random House Worlds, a new publishing imprint dedicated entirely to licensed book publishing. This newly created imprint will be the home for major pop culture brands to be published within the Random House division, including such properties as Star Wars, Minecraft, Stranger Things, Garfield, Magic the Gathering, and more. For readers of Star Wars books, this new imprint will replace what has formerly been known as Del Rey Star Wars. And finally, also in book news this week, USA Today published an excerpt from the upcoming novel Shadows of the Sith by author Adam Christopher. This novel follows Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian on their quest to find notorious Jedi hunter Ochi of Bestoon. One key detail that was released in the USA Today story was the previously unknown names of Rey Skywalker's parents. Per the article, we now know that her parents were named Dathan and Miramir. Shadows of the Sith is available now for pre-order and releases wide on June 28th. Well, that wraps it up for this week's Disturbances in the Force. Make sure to check out the ATG Cast podcast stream for weekly one-on-one interviews with the people behind the fandom. This Thursday, Around the Galaxy is sharing a star-studded best-of episode. Please subscribe for regular updates, follow us on your social media channels at ATGcast, and visit our website, atgcast.com, to keep up with us, find our merch, get information about supporting the show as an ATG patron. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.
We say it every week, man, but there's so much news every week. Good job. Loved it, man. Well done.
I got to catch my breath. I feel like I just ran a couple laps.
Well, that's good. The one thing I didn't catch until I heard the news is that along with Minecraft and Star Wars, Garfield somehow falls into that pile of
Who knew that Garfield
stories.
is still, making an impact out there, but there it is.
I guess so.
Garfield, man. That's exciting.
That was great stuff. Well, why don't we get straight to our guest tonight? Like we said, he joins us from Bandai. We'll let him do a little bit of his own introduction, but let's bring in Mr. Stephen Janes. Stephen,
how you doing, everyone?
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. How are things by you tonight?
Great. First and foremost, thank you for spelling the name correctly. I can't tell you how many times that is always misspelled. So I'm already off to a great start.
I'm not going to lie. I did, when I saw the email, I thought, oh, he misspelled it. But then I went and I did a quick check. I looked up Stephen Janes and Bandai, and I found you. And so I'm really glad that we got it right. And really glad you could join us tonight. So for the people who don't know you, give us a little bit about what you do with Bandai.
Sure. So don't thank me yet, because like most sports things, when the third string quarterback has to come in, it's either disaster or it's heroic. So we'll see which one it is.
I'm
But
thinking a
yeah,
touchdown at the end of the game. I think we're good.
yeah, it's either 6 interceptions or 6 touchdowns. There's no in between at this point. But I am the production specialist at Bandai Namco Toys and Collectibles America. So I do all of our video content with that, mainly running our YouTube channel. But I also oversee our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram social media accounts at Bandai Collect. Overall, I just love talking about anime, video games, toys, and above all else, Star Wars. I got all kinds of stuff in the back that you can't really see because it's, baby disaster behind me.
Well, that's great. So Bandai is going to have a pretty big presence as usual, I guess, at Star Wars Celebration this year. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you guys have planned.
Yeah, so the biggest things that we have, every convention that we go to, we always try to incorporate some type of workshop. And usually that's a lot of our hobby brands, our model kit stuff. And very excited because for this workshop at Star Wars Celebration, we have a build your own Razor Crest model kit. It's a very teeny tiny little guy right there, but it's really cool because it's a free workshop. Anyone can sign up for it. I believe the classes for this run about an hour just because there's a few more integral parts to it. For comparison, at WonderCon, we had 3 different ones, and they usually ran about 30 minutes, roughly, as far as construction from beginning to end. But the great thing about it is you get to walk away with that Razor Crest model kit. So whether you've completely built it or you're still in the process of doing it, you get to walk away with it. And that's always really cool about our workshops is you get to go in there. We have people on site that can kind of teach you like, hey, here's how to do it. Or if you don't know how to do a model kit, here's some little things to go with it. But like I said, leaving with a free model kit at the end of the day is also really cool.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, and just for the collectors out there, because there's always some crazy ones out there, but there's 2 different versions of this. The one that we're doing is the base model kit. There is another one that's more of the Beskar Silver. That one looks absolutely gorgeous. So if you haven't had a chance, take a look at that one. But like I said, if you're going to be at Star Wars Celebration, be sure to build your own mode of transportation.
That's fantastic. Awesome. That's great. And hey, it's in, maybe if you get a second one, you can actually do the television real life smashing it from outer space if you want. I don't recommend it because it looks awesome, but I'm just saying it. My funny little story, Stephen, I had I'll tell this to anybody who'll listen. I had Hal Hickel on the show, who's one of the effects supervisors for Mandalorian, and he was on a Thursday night, and we were talking about how much I love the Razor Crest. I was like, that's brilliant design. It feels like a character. I've looked, and then the next day was the day that the ship got destroyed. and next time I talked to him, I was like, you just led me on, and he was basically like, I couldn't tell you.
There like, go on.
Don't get too close to it.
Keep talking.
Well, I guess the good thing is if you don't have any desire to build a model kit, you can just throw the pieces all over the floor.
Right, and
there you go. Recreating
it counts.
That's right. It's real life 1-to-1, just like that.
It's a 2-in-1 type of thing. You can either build it or not. Either way, it's still perfect.
By the way,
choose your own adventure spaceship.
I will be there building one because it is one of my favorite Star Wars ships ever. So for sure,
no doubt.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of I should say most of our conventions that we always try to have a workshop, and very excited that we have this just because it's such a cool little model kit, to be quite honest with you.
It's awesome.
And not saying biased or anything because I work for the company, whatever it is, but I'm also a big fan of Star Wars, so I'll try to jump in line with you guys.
Awesome,
that's great. Good.
And then what we also will have, this is not necessarily an exclusive, but we're going to have it in stock on site, is the Ronin Mandalorian and Grogu with the Beskar armor. This is part of our Meisho realization line from Tamashii Nations. Basically, this is if Star Wars characters were inspired heavily, which they already kind of are, but if there was more inspiration from samurais of yore. So this is a really great thing. If you want it in more layman's terms, it is kind of more like an action figure. There's many points of articulation with Mandalorian. He's got several different accessories. Obviously, he's got his sniper rifle. He's got his samurai sword, which you can actually take out, which is really neat. Cool. And the most greatest part about all this is the little bun that Grogu has on there. It's the most adorable thing. He literally is only like that tall. It's so great.
Yeah, but he's got a little top knot. I saw it on another show. They were showing it, and that was easily the most impressive part to everybody who saw it.
It's so cool. We actually did a video on this figure a while ago. And what's also really neat is the little carriage. Actually, the wheels do work, so you can physically push that around. Yeah, it might hurt your back a little bit, but it is really cool to get some transportation in that.
That's the detail on it. And now, how tall is the figure? Is it what size is that figure?
I would say it's about 6-7 inches or so.
I think it's about a 6-inch.
Yeah,
so it's like a Black Series sort of size.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So for comparison, I got the Kylo Ren, and it looks like you get the Stormtrooper as well. Very similar designs, very same size. They'll stand up pretty well to each other.
Man, the detail is just amazing. I'm not going to walk away from Star Wars Celebration with any money left. This is going to be a problem.
That's the point, right?
I guess exactly. Yeah, you're right. And we are going to, if you're listening to the show, we're going to tell you how you can win one of these yourselves from the good people at Bandai. We're very thankful and looking forward to being able to share that as well. And there's another exclusive, correct, coming from the at the tent.
Yes, there is one more exclusive. This one we're very excited. So a little bit of backstory. Bandai Namco is kind of a super company now. Whereas we used to be Bandai Collectibles and we had Bandai America that was kind of focusing on toys like Tamagotchi. We recently merged into what we call the One Bandai platform. So Bandai Namco Toys Collectibles America, that's where the name comes from. And we have an exclusive R2-D2 Tamagotchi for Star Wars Celebration. You will not be able to get this anywhere else. We actually had a chance to kind of play around with this a little bit in the studio just this past week. It's kind of adorable because when you think of a Tamagotchi, it starts as like a blob and develops into this giant monster that eventually goes away or doesn't, or whatever the case is. But it's really cool the detail that they put into this. For example, if you don't take care of R2, he gets taken away by Jawas. So you see a little straight of Jawas literally carting him off, which is kind of depressing to look at, but it's still kind of cool. But the color itself, a super nice platinum, really shiny. If collectors are going to want this. If you're a fan of Tamagotchis, you're definitely going to want this. It's really fun. It's also really cool because there's several different vehicles that R2 can pilot depending on the growth progression. I think he can get in like a land speeder, he can get in an X-Wing, amongst other ships as well.
That's really cool.
That's
I am not a Tamagotchi person, but I'm an R2-D2 person. So this has shown up on my radar at exactly the wrong time, in the best possible way. Because I know they had released one of these sometime last year, and it was the blue and white one. And I think it was maybe a Target exclusive, or I had seen it out in retail. And I had looked at it a couple times, so I was like, I don't really need that. And then I saw this the other day and went, it's a convention exclusive, and it's silver, and it's even cooler. So
those
this
are the magic
be a
words.
Problem for me, Steven. This is what I'm telling you.
Listen, I'm just the guy that markets it, that makes you want to buy it. It's not my fault past that.
Well, you're doing a good job, and it's working.
Thank you.
So pass that along to the people above you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a really beautiful looking device. A lot of fun. The instruction manual it's literally like this giant booklet. No joke. It's like a map that you're unveiling. But it's really fun to see like all the different variations of R2 that you can get, just in terms of how he grows, the different ships, and all that other stuff. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Wow, that's really exciting. Well, and I know at conventions with companies like yours, you certainly want people to come by the booth, not only because we want them to get these great exclusives, to get these great items that you guys have, but you guys, tried to build in an experience. Tell us a little bit about, or the things you can tell us about with the booth, and what you want people to experience when they come see you.
Yeah, definitely. So first and foremost, we'll be at booth 1905. So be sure to stop by over there. Say hi to myself. Say hi to David, Justin. There's a kind of a known thing that if you get on Justin's good side, he might have some, free goodies for you. So just, bring him a soda pop or two, and maybe he'll cozy up to you. But what's really cool is we're going to have a life-size Darth Vader of the Meisho Realization line in there that you can take photos with. When you get there, ask David and Justin about the sword. There is a story to go with that, and I don't want to necessarily spoil it just yet, because I don't know the full details. I only heard the Cliff Notes version of it, but it's a really funny story. So ask them about that. Obviously, it'll be there for photos. And then we're also going to have, this is something completely different. We're going to have a couple of different figures, I think 5 in total, that are basically in the prototype stage. And we're asking all of you to vote which one you want to progress and see on there. I know Admiral Akbar is one of them. There's several others from the different trilogies. If Bandai Dave is there, he will force you to vote for Akbar. So there's your warning. Please be careful. It will be skewed in his favor because he's a huge Akbar fan. But it's really cool because normally on display, you would have all the figures that are coming up. You know, here's the prototype stage. Here's going to be released maybe next year, something like that. Very different that you actually get to look at the figures and say, I want that one on my shelf next year and vote for it. So really fun experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so much to look forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing that life-size Vader and getting that picture, and also certainly hearing that story about the sword. I'm intrigued already.
I'm just glad that Vader is out of our studio. He sat behind a pane glass as we were filming for years, and every time I turn around, just jump out of my pants as I'm seeing this thing, forgetting it's not a real person.
Never got used to it, right?
Oh, never.
I was saying before we got on the last con I was at was New York Comic Con in 2019, and you guys had that there, and I remember my daughter ran up to it and she was like, "Take my picture with this." So I have that somewhere. I can see if I can dig it out, but it's impressive to see it in real life. And like we were saying, the figures just look, the detail on those little 6-inch figures are amazing. So it's and it's funny, when I first heard about them, I was like, I don't really think, it's not for me. But I just, seeing the one that Nick just showed, and the Kylo that you had, and then seeing them in person, it changes. If you don't think, or if you're not sure if the Ronin style is for you, when you see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, now I see it, now I get it, this is for me, totally for me.
Yeah,
and it really is so cool. And I mean, he's got the little scroll holder on the back of the belt. Of course, this is indicating to me that the sword is missing from mine, so I'm going to have to figure out where that went. But it came with, I think, the 2 swords, but even like the blaster, and you're not going to be able to see this, I don't think, but it's got like the very kind of steampunk Victorian, not Victorian, that's clearly the wrong time period, but it's got all the details, and the armor has all the details. And I've got a box somewhere with all the extra hands that came with it, because you can have the different poses to hold a sword, to hold a gun, and all that kind of stuff. So the attention to detail shows through in this line of figures. And this is the only one I have, but I understand now, after getting this one, why people love them so much and why they're so popular.
Yeah, and these are from Tamashii Nations, and when they create these figures, they don't leave any stone unturned. So, for example, here's the Captain Phasma one that I have. My blur effect, is forgiving for a second, but you can see the rifle in her hand. The sword actually does come out of the sheath, although it's having a little issues right there. There we go. You have that. So you can see like little grenade bombs off to the side and pouches. She does also have I believe, a blaster pistol. I elected to go with the rifle just because I thought that looked cooler. But that's the great thing about Tamashii Nations products, and they'll have a pretty decent showing at our booth at Star Wars Celebration. Is you get so many different accessories, different head swaps, hand plates, just depending on what type of figure it is, that literally no 2 figures are going to look the same when it comes to posing. We can all get the exact same figures, look at the desk, they're all going to be completely different, just with the accessories and everything else that comes with them. So great.
That's great. Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. What's your favorite Bandai Star Wars toy, figure, collectible? What's the one that you love the most?
Oh, from our brands. I really have to honestly say the Meisho Realization, because I'm always a very basic person when it comes to my figures. I love just, when I'm a fan of something, I want to collect that thing. And then when I saw this line, I was like, I never realized how cool it could be to expand beyond what you normally think. I got Funko Pops, which you can't really do a whole lot with. I've got just your regular action figures that we see at Target, Walmart, pretty basic in that regard. But then you see something like this, and like, that's just, it works, it fits and it's perfect, and can't go wrong with that. So I'm going to say this.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, Stephen, I know you got a young child to get back to. Do you have anything else we need to know before we all get on our various planes and trains and automobiles to get out to Star Wars Celebration? Anything else you want to tell us about the booth?
Yeah, I think my wife is losing that battle in the background, so I'm about to tag in and tame that one. But like I said, we'll be at booth 1905. Please come check us out. We love meeting new fans. We love talking to people. Again, the workshop with the Razor Crest model kit is a lot of fun. That is something that we do have happening throughout the day during the entire convention. So if you don't get in, day one, it's okay. We do advise people get there a little bit earlier just based on times. I don't know if we're doing a ticketing system this time around. So like I said, just get there a little bit earlier. The Tamagotchi, is an event exclusive. So if you don't get it this weekend, you're not going to get, or next weekend, I should say, you're not going to get it at all. So please come say hi. Can't wait to see you all there, and looking forward to an amazing event.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bandai. And keep listening to the show, and we'll let you know how you can win your Ronin Mandalorian with Baby Yoda with a little top knot. I mean, how great is that? So...
You will not be disappointed in that figure.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Awesome.
Thanks you, guys.
How cool is that?
I said it, and as I'm saying it, I'm like, he probably doesn't want to hear this, that I don't like. I was never a fan of that Ronin look for these until I saw them, and I can definitely see what. And in fact, like, I would love to get like a Vader Ronin helmet to go back here somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say
about a room, but
I'll say, knowing you the way I do, between the helmets and the pops. What I'm here to tell you, Pete, is you should just steer clear, because if you go down that path, forever will it dominate your destiny.
It's true.
Because I have just the one that someone was kind enough to gift me, but every time I see another one, I'm like, ooh, I like that. And again, it was like you said, it wasn't something I thought that I wanted or would like. And that's interesting too. And I wish I had had a chance to ask him, because he talked about, the thing that you didn't realize. And that's what we got with Visions last year.
Yeah.
With Visions showing up. And of course, there are some connecting points there in that story style and anime and that kind of thing. But to be able to get another version of Star Wars, and I just fell in love with it. And I'm excited to hear at Celebration that hopefully they're going to announce Vision Season 2. To get, even if it's not a continuation of some of those stories, I think a couple of them lend themselves to it. But a whole new round of that, just again, branching out this galaxy that has so many avenues and so many different places that it can go. I think part of why Star Wars endures is because it always has an opportunity to surprise us, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's also like, who was I? I can't remember who I was talking to about it. One of my guests, maybe one of our guests. I don't remember who it was, but we were talking about how the great thing about, I think it was Ryan Airy, who was this past week on Around the Galaxy. Go check out that episode. Ryan was amazing from Screen Crush. But we talked about how you can the great thing about Visions was it was a no pressure Star Wars story, right? You didn't have to worry about where it connected. You didn't walk out of it going, whose mother was that? And who's, what? It was just fun and sometimes vicious and sometimes frightening, and certainly highly engaging stories told in that universe from a different point of view, which was just so cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it does. And look, I if nothing else, I'm always the first to admit when something is not at the top of my list. It is not the top of my Star Wars list, but I absolutely enjoyed absolutely every second of it. So
without a doubt. Yeah, I agree with you completely on that front. And I'll be getting a selfie with that giant life-size Darth Vader at their booth when I get there.
I can't wait.
It's on the list at this point.
I can tell you, in fact, I was, if it wasn't rude, I was going to go digging through my phone to see if I still had the picture of my daughter with that from New York Comic-Con. But it's so cool.
It's very cool. Well, speaking of cool, and this is kind of, the main, crux of what we were going to get into for just a little bit tonight. I mentioned it in the news, Vanity Fair. That was a big article, and there were a lot of things in that article. On top of that, we got a couple of new things just today. We got a Volkswagen commercial, which was really fun. Gave us, a peek at that new little flying droid that looks like the one from Batteries Not Included, for those of you that remember the movie Batteries Not Included. So that was fun, but we also got the little extended clip of Obi-Wan and Owen talking to each other this morning.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the way they are promoting this series. It's really fun to watch a handful of things. Number one, and I tweeted about this the other day, it's remarkable that it's not just, it hasn't struck me yet how important it is that we are getting Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Bonnie Pease, and Joel Edgerton back. I mean, that's amazing. Think about that for 1 second. 20 years ago, these movies came out, and we never thought we'd see them again in live action. Right. And they came back to retake on their roles. Secondly, one of the things I noticed about the clip today, more so than I did in the trailer, is it really feels like it's shot and it has the texture of a major motion picture. It doesn't look, and I love the way Mando and Book of Boba Fett looked, but if you look at just that short little clip, it feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like a TV show. I know that's a really weird sort of unquantifiable thing, but it's not right, at all. Yeah.
And Brian gets it. Battery's not included. No, you're not wrong. And it reminds me, I read an article. I don't know if it was an article. It was a blog post. And I don't know the veracity of it, so I didn't want to include it in the news. Yeah. It read like it was legit, but it read like somebody was covering a press event, maybe over in the UK somewhere, because I know that's where the press tour had kind of started, I think, the beginning of this last week. And they were basically just kind of doing a TikTok all the way down of they talked about this, they talked about that, they talked about that. And one of the things that they said that Deborah Chow said was that unlike the previous Star Wars TV series that we've gotten so far, this one was basically shot as a film that was broken up into 6 parts. Like that was specifically said in this press conference. Again, I haven't seen it on a verified article or reporting channel, but it read pretty legit, and it makes sense. And again, it ties exactly to what you said. Was it did not feel. I don't want to say that TV is lesser, because that's not what I'm trying to say. The episodic nature of it, and
but I think, and it's an interesting point, because I think it's going to impact the way we watch this show. And I think one of the weird things to me about Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and I could never quite grasp if I liked it or not, and it's not that I disliked it, I know that, but how I felt about it was the fact that you had a different director every week. And part of me was like, well, how are you telling this totally complete story if you have a different director every week? And then it struck me that really almost every episode of Mandalorian, specifically, hard to say with Book of Boba Fett, but every episode of Mandalorian kind of had a wrap up. There was very little edge of your seat, what's going to happen next. It was we looked forward to it because we knew that the story moved along. We knew that we pushed that sort of narrative a little bit further, but hey, we got Frog Lady to where she needed to be, or we beat the monster and finished the journey, right? And so
there was a little bit of Monster of the Week with the continuing thread sprinkled in along the way.
Right. And it's and that's why you're able to do sort of a different director every weekend.
And I agree with that point completely. And it speaks to it. I'm not one to complain. I'm not one to complain about Star Wars, because Star Wars that we get is Star Wars we didn't have. But one of my biggest things with the sequel trilogy, if I were to have a singular complaint, was that I think the biggest thing that derailed and created as many issues as it did with the sequel trilogy was the change in directors. Because again, I'm the first one to say I want a Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. I want to see him have a cohesive whatever. If JJ had done the middle movie, because he did the first and second, it could have all felt different and had a different vibe to it. Or if, I think that's the biggest thing. And we didn't get that with the original trilogy either, because George directed 4, and then you have Irving Kershner, you have who directed Jedi?
Jedi was yeah, we're Star Wars fans. We have to turn on our card. But the difference is, though,
in California,
they won't let us in. This badge doesn't seem to work, sir. We watched your show last week. But the difference was George was there. It was George's story, right? Correct. Whereas the sequel trilogy, it was JJ's story, then Ryan's story, then JJ's story. And JJ was shoehorning his story back into it, regardless of what he was going to do.
And so I think that it lends itself, and I think that's what has the potential to make certainly Obi-Wan's or the Kenobi series special is Deborah Chow the entire time. That unified vision, that unified direction. As far as I know, with Andor, and this is interesting as well, because in the news and in that article in Vanity Fair, it says that's what this first season focuses on. Like, they're laying it out right up front. Andor is going to be potentially multiple seasons.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, Tony Gilroy is doing the whole first season. So again, to have the opportunity to have some things, and I do like the changes in. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, I want her to direct as much Star Wars as she can. You know, I really like the Taika episodes. I really like what's his name that ended up playing the X-Wing pilot, Fukuyama.
Oh yeah,
yeah, his episode was so good.
Welcome to Streaming Star Wars, where we know just enough to talk about it, but not enough.
We know
to
everything
be
but people's names. Anyhow, Paul, I'm glad we're doing this tonight.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
So yeah, so that certainly has a lot on there. But what about for you with the Vanity Fair article? What are some other things that you wanted to talk about that kind of stood out for you?
Well, I mean, I think it was interesting to kind of hear that there's a commitment, I think, to television, which I think we were, you know, you and I have certainly talked about on this show and other places as well. But the fact that Star Wars is leaning on television, it feels like, and not that you can make the quality shows that you can now, that we've seen with Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and I think we're going to see with Obi-Wan. The rush back to the theater may not be there, and I think that's kind of helped Star Wars. I think that's helped the storytelling. Is they're not rushing back to be like, we need to get a film out there. I think, as weird as it is to say, pandemic probably helped Star Wars pace itself better.
Sure.
I mean, we are going to have 3 live action series this year. We're going to have we're finished Book of Boba, right? Which so maybe even 4, right? Because we finished Book of Boba. We got Kenobi next week. Then we got Andor, and then Mando 3 comes out at the end of this year.
At the end of the year.
So I ask myself and I ask fellow fans, you know, we talk about how when we heard that Disney was taking over at Lucasfilm, there was this promise of a new 1 or 2 Star Wars movies a year, much like Marvel. And then people for a while were like, oh, we're not getting that. What happened? You're going to think about it this way. I mean, essentially, if you get 4 series, or let's just say 3, because, you know, front and back during this, 3 series, 6 hours, that's 18 hours of film and story. That's like getting 6 movies a year. That's like getting 6 to 8 movies per year, and they're great stories. And there's nothing. I don't think there's any diminishing in the quality as a result of them being television.
Well, and that's been something that we've seen not just in Star Wars, but we've seen over the last 5, 10. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of it started with The Sopranos, which is something that I talk about all the time. But the transition to non-network TV shows, limited run TV shows, they're not putting out 22 episodes a year. They're putting out 10 or 12 episodes of the year. And so you start getting things like The Sopranos, Newsroom, Breaking Bad, which was not network, but was cable, was not pay. I mean, it was not premium cable, but it was cable. You get so many of these other properties and shows that give them the ability to turn on the quality, to turn that quality factor up, and to be able to make something that feels more cinematic on a week-to-week basis. And it continues into things like Game of Thrones. It continues into all the Disney shows that we're watching. It becomes this thing that grows and snowballs, and it blurs the lines between cinema and television, which in a lot of ways is really cool, but also, you know, creates those moments of going, you know, where are we going with this? What do we want to do?
Well, and I liked the quote that you pulled as well, where she said that, you know, she's not thinking, Kathleen Kennedy is not thinking in terms of trilogies, because Star Wars is this continuing story, and I think that's great, and it'll be interesting to see how
persistent storytelling is what she said.
Yes, and that's a great way to put it, and it'll be interesting to see how the fan base responds to, because I think this will continue to be the cameo of the week. And I think that there's this thing about this fear of fan service, right? And so I wish I could remember who said it, and probably multiple people have said it on Twitter, but somebody who said, you know, I don't have a problem with fan service because that fan being serviced is me. And there's no problem with that. I mean, today, Star Wars UK listed shows that we're watching, or what our viewing schedule is for the next week, and it included some Clone Wars and Rebels episode. I think some Rebels episodes, certainly Clone Wars, and they were Satine episodes, which is really interesting. It's got a lot of people now kind of in that sort of conspiracy theory planning mode, but I still don't think we're going to see Satine. I think we're going to get an understanding of why Obi-Wan is so broken. And not to take too far of a sidetrack, but I'm going to. I think the reason Satine is important and they are going to need to reference it is because Obi-Wan's story is really one of continual loss. So I put myself in my dad's shoes, and he's only watched the films. So he's seen him lose Qui-Gon and he's seen him lose Anakin. And those are horrible losses. But you also need to understand what else he's lost and what he gave up. And the fact that I think there's something to be said for the fact that he knew that Anakin and Padme were together, didn't do anything about it, and he gave that up himself, and still saw the failure and watched Satine die in his arms. And it's so important to understand this broken figure that Obi-Wan is, and really that Luke is his last chance to redeem himself, possibly.
Yeah, and we get that little tease in the clip, and I don't know should I talk about the clip that they put out today? I know
sure. Yeah, I mean it's not a spoiler at all. I mean,
there's a little 15 or 20 seconds of Owen and Obi-Wan talking, and it's the connecting point to that scene that we had already gotten in the trailer where he says, like, you trained his father, but it was that concern for Luke. And I love the part where he says, he asks how he's doing, and Owen says, you don't care about how he's doing, you want to know if he's showing.
Right.
And that was, again, the dynamic between these two men and what they're trying to protect and what they're trying to do. But I love what you said about Obi-Wan, and it's exactly what I thought about somewhere else that I had read. Continual loss. That's exactly it. Everything that he had been through, whether it was Obi-Wan, whether it was Anakin, whether it was Satine, Luke, the choice he made in New Hope that related to Luke, everything about it is we're getting the character study of this, figure that has been so, I don't want to say enigmatic because he hasn't been confusing, but at the same time, he's the one that gives us from a certain point of view. So there are layers and layers and layers there.
And now that you say that, it's really interesting. This struck me for the first time based specifically on what you just said. I wonder if we will have a different sympathy for him making up the story the way he did. And whether we do or not, I do now based on what you said, because look, he can't afford to fail again. He has failed. He failed his master. He failed his student. He failed his love. I'm not going to fail this kid. And if I have to not tell him that his father's Vader yet, I'm going to do that. It'll be the point of view that I'll take. And hey, it's like we've all sort of told those stories where you're like, well, I didn't not say that I dropped that. It's kind of like, well, I didn't not say he's your father. I said that, the person who he was became. Yeah. So I think in a way, if you look at it from that perspective, the certain point of view is kind of okay.
He's a man trying to fix one more time before his time runs out. And I think with being Force sensitive, part of being a Jedi, sometimes you have these visions of the future, the ability to kind of see down the road. I would love to see maybe the opportunity where he's having visions. We've heard and speculated and wondered, is he going to commune with Qui-Gon on some level because of what we get in the certain point of view book where, the Master Apprentice story in there, learning to connect, learning all that stuff. What if part of this is he sees his end, which the great irony of that for me on a personal level is Ewan McGregor was in the movie Big Fish that was filmed in Alabama. I was an extra in back in the day. But the beginning part of that movie, Edward Bloom as a child, his character goes and they see this witch. And I think she asked the question, would you want to know how you die? Or they say if you look into the witch's eye, you see how you die. And so everybody's scared of it. They don't want to do it. Well, he, as a little kid, does it. And that allows him to live his life more extraordinary than he ever would have because he knew, well, this isn't my time. So it's okay if I go to war and be a hero because I don't die that way. I don't, you know, it trickles down the way. So what if Obi-Wan is a terrible long way to get to something that is my point? What if Obi-Wan knows where he's headed with the confrontation with Vader in A New Hope? And as a result of that, his other decisions, his persistence for Luke, his persistence to be that extra protection, to do these other things, are driven by a knowledge that he has through the Force.
Well, yeah, and I think, and I may have said this to you before, and that is, I believe that the Alec Guinness portrayal of Obi-Wan is the best form of accidental acting ever. When Luke first says to him, you know, he claims to be the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the look on his face is like, oh shit, the wheels are in motion. Here we go.
Yep.
This
Here
is
it goes.
it.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we see in this series, and I hope it's part of the. I hope we see him commune and speak to Qui-Gon to learn that, and just know that one day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're going to have to make that biggest sacrifice.
Right.
And when Luke makes it clear to him that he knows who Obi-Wan is, now he knows that the wheels are in motion and it's going to come. Now, to your point, I wonder if he'll have a vision that it's at the blade of Darth Vader, or whatever. But either way, I think you're onto something there, because it does allow him to be persistent until he needs to give it up.
Well, one other thing that I read in that press release article that I saw, that I also thought was interesting, and it shows a tiny bit in the trailer, because we have that shot of him on a rooftop and he appears to be using a blaster. We've seen the Vanity Fair magazine cover of him holding a lightsaber, but we've not seen anything like that in any of the show footage so far. And one of the things that's mentioned, and this certainly makes sense for a Jedi who's hiding out in a time when Jedi are being hunted, but it says specifically in that press release thing, he's not using the Force. He's hiding out. He's closed himself off. And we see that with Luke in The Last Jedi. Yep. You have the ability to close yourself off from the Force. You have the ability to turn inward and, you know, let that be another focus. And so then the question becomes, what pushes him to step out of that? Obviously, there's going to be confrontations with Vader. We don't know if it's present, if it's flashback. There's going to be Reva. The only other thing, and I thought about this, and this wasn't our trailer episode, but rewatching the trailer at some point, as one does, the part where he says, stay hidden, or something, or will be found. He says we, and it feels like he's talking to somebody. So it begs the question, who is he talking to? Is he talking to Batteries Not Included droid? Is there a part where he's with young Luke and having a moment? Although Luke in New Hope doesn't really have a memory of Ben, other than, oh, he's that crazy old guy. Yep. You know, whatever. So as a 10-year-old, an adventure like that would probably stand out in your head, but it seemed like an intentional line of, or we will be hit, or we will be found, or whatever it was he said. Yeah. So the we stood out to me in that.
I agree with that. And I also think one of the things that I'm most interested in, and I'm, you know, I've been talking about this so much, I'm not sure if I talked about it here or elsewhere, but I'm interested in the fact that, and I think it was in a recent article as well, he doesn't know that Anakin survived, right? Just like when Ahsoka realized that Anakin survived. He doesn't know this, and that realization as a center point of the show, I think, is going to be critical, and that could be what really drives him to be. Because think about it this way, right? You're entrusted. Your best friend dies at your hand. You are entrusted with his children, and you've decided that he is the chosen one since his father wasn't. So I'm going to keep him going, and then you find out, wait, his father's still alive and he's the second most evil thing in the universe. This is a problem. So that's a different driver that I don't think we've thought about much. And that could make this a very interesting way to tell the story as well.
Well, the good news is at this point, 1 week from now, we will be 2 episodes into knowing what is that direction? Where is this going? What are we? I mean, we get 2. And you and I are going to be on the West Coast, which means we're going to get to see it at midnight. None of this,
but it's still going to feel like 3
a.m. nonsense.
I know. I was trying to trick myself that way too, but it's going to be. We're still going to be on East Coast Central.
Correct.
Coast. But
you're right.
we're going to be jazzed up because we're going to be with people who are like, "Come and watch it with us," and we're going to be like, "All right, we will."
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Star Wars nerd vacation. Everything is a yes, right?
Let's put this out there. Do you think there's going to be a Star Wars Celebration premiere event on Thursday?
It seems hard to think that there won't be, especially given that this was originally slated to drop on Wednesday and it got intentionally moved to Friday. I don't think that was for anything other than here's a chance to show it now. Now that means, they could do, in fact, I saw Scotty talk about this the other day. They could do a thing where they bring people in. You could do a ticket lottery like they do for the panels or whatever. And they could have the Disney police walking around, making sure people don't have phones out and deleting things if they see somebody recording or taking a picture. But it seems hard to believe that there isn't going to be some sort of, if not Thursday, a first thing Friday sometime. Hey, do you want to come watch it with a bunch of people? We're running it when it's out for everybody.
Yeah. See, here's what I'm thinking. I think because I wasn't at Chicago. I wasn't I haven't been to any of them. But was it JJ that invited everybody after the Force Awakens panel and said, "Hey, afterwards, you're all invited to a concert of Star Wars music," right? And everybody freaked out. What if after that Lucasfilm panel, because Filoni probably will be a part of that, Favreau will probably be a part of that. What if they say, "Hey, why don't you all join us at 7:00 at blah, 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 and you'll be the first to ever see Obi-Wan Kenobi," and everybody will freak out. And it'll be so I mean, to your point, because it's going to start again on Wednesdays, right? It goes back to the Wednesday schedule. So it's not like they moved it for scheduling. It's not like it's not like a new Disney Plus show is starting this Wednesday.
Correct. It's an intentional move.
It's a very intentional move. And look, as much as they don't want to give anything away, I think they would rather excite the 20,000 people at Star Wars Celebration and give them and risk leaks all they want.
No doubt.
It's going to be a 12-hour difference, right? If that.
Yeah, because at that point they could just drop the whole thing on Disney Plus too and say, well, you know what, it's out.
Good
for
point.
Everybody.
That's a great point too. That is a really good point.
They have all the controls. They could go, you know what, surprise everybody, celebration special. Here we go.
Well, they did drop Rise of Skywalker like 2 months early, right, on Disney Plus during pandemic. So
that's right.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Anything could happen. Well, Peter. Yes. As we are wrapping this up, we've had a lovely evening. We've had some amazing, we had an amazing guest talking about Bandai Namco, the stuff that they're going to have at Celebration. I did forget to do this while he was on the air, but I'm going to pop it up here real quick for anybody that's going to Celebration. If you're a pin collector, they have the Star Wars Celebration kind of pin series, and different ones are sponsored by different, Lego may have one, Bandai has one. And the Bandai pin was announced today on Twitter, and it is this guy. So if you're a pin collector, it is Yoda. So this one is going to be, I think, maybe available at the Bandai booth. I'm not entirely sure how this process works, but those that are hardcore into the pin collecting know how this works. And this one was dropped just today. So if that's the part of your jam, you're going to be there. This is the one that Bandai is a sponsor of. So
that's cool.
We're excited for people to check that out.
Little Yoda enamel pen. It'll go really good with your ATG cast pin. That
it will.
That will be given. Do you have one handy?
It'll
go
I do have one handy. Oh, of course I do.
There we go. If you are going to be a Star Wars Celebration, join us for. Just find us anywhere and ask for one of these little.
We'll do the whole show and tell. How about that? I've got this guy.
What else you got?
This
you
guy.
Got a sticker. Look at that.
Oh, and then we've got this one. And this one, I'm excited about this one.
I think this is going to be a winner. It says shill on it with the Disney eye and the Star Wars SHIL.
That's right. And we may have, and this is super limited, and this may be the trading option. If somebody has some good swag they want to trade.
Yes, I love this.
We do have, I got to get my dumb face out of the way so it'll focus. But it's R5 Drink More. We have a very, very limited supply of those that are coming with us. Pete's going to have some. I'm going to have some. And I think those are the trade ones. Those are the ones that you hold back for the good stuff. But we're going to have so much stuff to give away. And that was leading me to kind of my final point, which is you and I talk every day, usually by text on the telephone. But the next time I see you with my eyeballs, we're going to be in the same place.
That's incredible. I just think it's incredibly ironic that we're like literally in the same hotel completely by accident.
Correct.
Which is not good for our livers, really good for the bar at the hotel. So that's not, but I honestly, I cannot believe, as I said at the top of the show, it's days now. This is something
it is days.
I was thinking about it just yesterday about how literally we've been looking forward to this for 2 years. And it's so interesting because you and I, we joke about it because we do see people on Facebook. So there's like this, there's the bell curve of Star Wars fans that I talk so much about. And the 5,000 people who follow ATG Cast on Twitter, they're pretty much in that. Yeah, I understand. I can tell you, what the difference is between Leku and Mantrals. I can tell you the difference between the different races and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But there are so many people that are just going to be quote unquote normal people who are in California who go to Star Wars Celebration. What was the one you said? Somebody was asking, do you think there's going to be Ahsoka merchandise for sale at Star Wars Celebration? Great question. Obviously, yes, but wow. So that tells you it's not going. I'm excited for that because there's so many people that are just going to go because they're like, oh, that Star Wars thing is this weekend. But there's so many of us, people who listen, people who watch, people who follow us, who are making that, and it's literally, it doesn't matter if this is your first or 14th Star Wars Celebration.
Right.
This one feels incredibly special because of the last couple of years, because of honestly the evolution of Star Wars. Think about it. Since the last one was The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes. There's
been 3 Star Wars live action shows. There's been 2 animated seasons. There's been
at the last
Visions.
celebration in Chicago. They showed the teaser footage for Mandalorian.
Right.
Like,
how far have we come in that 2 years?
Yeah, that's how far we've come. We've gotten Bad Batch, Visions, 2 Mando seasons, Book of Boba Fett, all of this stuff, and it just continues to grow and snowball. The High Republic wasn't a thing when
Celebration happened in Chicago. It was still Project Luminous, right?
Yeah, it was Project Luminous. Like, everything has happened in this time, and the growth, and I just, he was talking about coming and building a Razor Crest. I'm like, yeah, I need to add that to my list. If I don't get into a single of the big whoop-de-doo panels, I'm still going to hang out by a stage where it's streaming. I just can't wait to be there. I can't wait to be in the environment. Of course, getting to meet these people that have become so dear to me is the number one thing. But like my one day at Celebration in Orlando in 2017, it wasn't San Diego Comic-Con where you have 100 different properties.
Right.
Everything here is Star Wars, and everyone there is there for Star Wars. And that's the magic in this moment. You're standing in line. You should definitely talk to the people around you because they're there for the same reason you are. It's not at the grocery store where somebody's worried about 25 other things. Like, we're all coming together on this pilgrimage for this one huge thing that, speaks to all of us. So I truly can't wait, and it's going to be the longest next 4 days of my life trying to get to Tuesday.
Well, I got a lot of packing to do. I got a lot of stuff to get together. I got to, and I got to get my son packed. I got to
charge up those battery packs. All those extra things.
Absolutely. So, it's great. And the next time you get a streaming Star Wars from us, it'll be recorded in Anaheim. We don't know exactly what and how and where it's going to work, but we're going to definitely do it. I will have we'll have some equipment with us, and if you're there and you are a listener to the show, whether this one or Podcast the Wills or ATG Cast, any of the ATG Cast shows around the galaxy, stop by, say hello, and we'd love to meet you in person. We'd love to give you some free swag. We'd love to get your voice on, recorded, saying what your thoughts are and how you're enjoying the event. So
no doubt, you and I've talked about this a little bit, but I'll put it out there just for anybody who's listening that might be there. I think I'm going to try and do some sound bites just throughout the course of my time there, talking to listeners, people I know, but also anybody random that I meet that's willing to share, and just get thoughts about Star Wars Podcast of the Wheels is the podcast that treats Star Wars like a sacred text, and we talk about the Star Wars spiritual experience. And that's the question I'm going to ask people. Tell me your Star Wars spiritual experience. Tell me, is it this? Is it something else? And I'm going to come home, and my goal is to build an episode, just kind of a one-off episode, talking to as many people as I can about their moments, and plug that into a thing. So if you see me and you have a moment, tell me, holler, flag me down. We're going to be pretty identifiable between the masks. I've got my mask right here.
Yep, I got the same one.
Got the ATG Cast mask. I am going to selfishly wear my own swag T-shirts most of the time to try and be identifiable. Grab us, let us give you things, talk to us, give us a high five, a fist bump, whatever it is. Like that's why I'm going. Honestly, if I didn't get to go in the building, if I got to stand outside of the building and still got to connect with people, that's what I'm excited about. That's what it's about for me. So the rest of it is secondary, and it turns out secondary is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is wild because honestly, every show that I've been on, I've been guest on a couple shows over the last couple of weeks, and every time when they ask me, what are you looking forward to most about Star Wars Celebration? And honestly, it's the people thing. And I think I'm going to forget how amazing the Bandai booth and Funko booth and all the other things are, and the exclusive merchandise and the unveiling of things, the celebrities that we're going to be in the same buildings with. Favreau, Filoni,
Ewan McGregor. They're going to do a 20th panel. Like, things are going to happen.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts.
We may get Indiana Jones. We may also get Natalie Portman cross-promoting 20th Attack of the Clones and Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm just saying. I'll let Natalie punch me in the face.
I'll be at Disneyland on that Friday. I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss it. But you know what? Hey, look, Attack of the Clones was my least favorite Star Wars movie until recently. So it's I'm gonna kick myself for missing it. I know, but I'm going to be at Disneyland with my dad and my son. Jack's going to be building a lightsaber. It's going to be
it's fantastic.
It's going to be amazing. So, well, Nick, I think that might wrap it up for us tonight.
I think we've done it.
Well, as we say every week, may the Force be with you.
Always.